What's happening, everybody? Hope y'all having a good afternoon. Uh, as I posted on an earlier video, I was going to go ahead and start doing a part two of the corporocracy of not only the United States but the world. So this is part two. So hang on, guys. I've got some things to show you. First off, we'll go right here. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out them that had sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of those that sold doves. And he went unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple, and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased. Why would that make any sense? Well, who the money changers were is the big thing. Okay, they were the bankers, the money exchangers, the ones that run the trades and everything like that. I can go back a little history there. That before this time, there's a group of people in the Caucasus Mountains. I forget exactly what their name of their society was, but basically it was the Khazarian or Khazarian Jews. And I'm going to say this wrong, and I know it is, but that later on became the Azkazian Jews. I'm not sure exactly if I'm saying that right. But the reason that's important is because of these things right here. Mayor Amschel Rothschild. So I did a little reading on this, and it goes back to the 15th century of Frankfurt, Germany. They lived in the ghetto, and he worked his way out and tried to get a job, and he secured a job under Jacob Wolf Oppenheimer. The name Oppenheimer should kind of click a little bit because he's the grandfather of the atomic bomb, or the family name is. Not exactly this person, but that's where he started. And then he got his ideas about doing banking and everything from this guy. And then later on, he sent his brothers and his grandson and all the others around different places in Europe to start up banking. So we already know all about this. I hope you do. But right here's the biggest important thing. Jacob Oppenheimer, Wolf Oppenheimer. And that relates back to Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb. They are Jews. All right? No doubt about it. They are Jewish. We'll go over here again and look at Mayer Rothschild. I want to tell you a little secret. Mayer Amschel Rothschild actually took his name from the house that he worked in. That was typical because a lot of these people was not registered. They didn't have real names or surnames. And they took on the name. And right here you can see it. Exon's house was called Zum Roten Shield. Rothschilds. Red shield. So you look at the Rothschild emblem or shield or crest, it is red. So that's why that's important. Again, he was they was required to live apart from the Christians in the Jungle days, or the Jews' alley, was also called the ghetto. It was smelly, overcrowded, and there's 3,000 Jewish immigrants locked into a ghetto on Sundays. They was treated very badly. And Christian holidays, they was locked up on Sundays, Christian holidays, and at night. So they had a curfew. They had limits and everything. And there's a lot of things they could not do. Why is this? Okay, we kind of understand, again, going back here to where I told you about Matthew 12, that the money changers was the Khazarian or Jews, Azkazian Jews. I found, and Rothschild is the Khazarian Jews. If you don't know about them, they are the ones that used to eat people. They eat flesh, humans, and they got it kind of infamous, and people didn't want them around because of this. And that's really important, guys. That these people were the blood eaters, the vampires, the flesh eaters at that time, or one of them. I want to take a side note right here for just a little bit, give y'all a little bit of other stuff in here. Uh, what I'm doing here, guys, is bring this up here in a little bit, and I will do that here in a minute. But where was I going with it? Oh, shoot. The Khazarian Jews. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I mentioned the other day about a name of a family name that I found out that is part of the ones that are the families. The ones that's in charge. The Rothschilds and people like that are not them. Okay, so they're just pawns of these other people. This other family I'm talking about, uh, they're one of the oldest family names. They can trace their lineage back before Jesus, even further than that. I'm not going to list their name again because I don't need more than one breathing hole, and I don't want to have assisted suicide, if you would put it like that. I'm really down for assisted suicide. So anyway, these people, this oldest family, their name starts with an O, the letter O, and they're one of the oldest families in the world. There's others. I'm not sure who they are, but this is one of them I found out. I have heard inkling of who these people were several years ago, and I just never did find anything out because it's really difficult to find any information on people that don't want to be found out. So anyway, this is the reason I'm jumping forward. This is that we're going to jump to the United States. We already know a little bit about the European banking empire and how the Rothschilds kind of controlled that. But anyway, early 1800s in the United States, uh, they actually started a bank. Uh, the first one was the Philadelphia Savings Fund Society and Boston's Provident Institute of Savings. They were set up in New York, Baltimore, Providence, Rhode Island, Hartford, Connecticut, as well as Philadelphia and other areas. The thing is, right here is this comment right here. It was funded with philanthropists contributing initial capital. The bank served depositors of modest means, providing the most secure savings outlet available. Well, we need to find out who this person was that started. So I got your little clink right here. The Philadelphia Savings Fund Society actually started with this guy right here. So I'm going down here just a little bit more, and I'll find you this name, Conde Rajut, Raguet, Rajut. So who is he? So we go over here and find out his. Well, it tells you a little bit about it and everything like that. He worked on the boats and worked with several countries trying to get things together, several people and everything like that. But here we go, a little bit more about him. Was the first charged the affairs from the United States to Brazil. He worked quite a bit with Brazil, and he started the Pennsylvania Bank. He is of French descent. He graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. Uh, so, he's kind of prominent and everything. And he worked for a counting house. And on a supercargo, supercargo is basically a type of company that handles large cartage and everything. So he worked as a counting house, the money changer, if you will, in this place and everything. And he learned his ways out. And he went on and from there and started this bank. Well, here's the thing. Where did he get his money? We had to find that out. Again, we go back to who he was related to, who he was friends with, and his friends were basically European financiers and bankers. And we don't really have to guess too much about who those financiers, bankers were. Name of them, Rothschild. And I'm going to throw another name out there that y'all probably didn't know of, that they came from England, probably from the Rothschild financial empire, Stanley. He came later on, but at the time, senior or grand senior Stanley was part of this group that started the Philadelphia Bank. How about that, guys? That's kind of odd that these people was involved. Again, we go back here. They started this bank back in here and everything like that, and it goes into the different banks that started and everything, all the way up to before the Civil War. Why is that important? Well, of course, we already know that the Rothschilds and others support both sides of uh, conflict, war. So they had padded their pockets and they sent this uh, Rosette and Stanley over to oversee their operations in the United States back in 1800, early 1800s. You already know that a lot of these people were part of the thing. Uh, the United States was set up to get away from the persecution, or started out to get away from the religious persecution, is what they told us, and to find their own way in the world. Um, and we did, sort of, I guess, in a way, but of course we was uh, overhanded secretly by the Rothschild Bank, their investments and control. And that's the way it's been, guys, for a very, very long time. Um, and that leads up to the early 1900s. I'm going to go ahead and skip a little bit, guys. There's some stuff that happened in the 1800s up to the early 1900s that will be covered a little bit another time. But right now we need to talk about this. The giants of wealth. Shortly after the 20s, 1800s and the 20s, we started, excuse me, I said Stanley. It was J.P. Morgan. The Morgan family is the ones that came over with to manage the money of Rothschild. I said Stanley, but it is Morgan, Morgan Stanley. Okay. Anyway, the giants at that time, at one time, early 1800s on into the mid-early 1900s, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and, of course, let me go down here a little bit more, find you the other one. There's a couple women that influenced them. J.P. Morgan. Yeah, shoot, I skipped one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not very organized. Andrew Carnegie. Again. There's another one. Oh yeah, Rockefeller. Excuse me, guys. Um, Rockefeller around the late 1800s and 1900s. Uh, they the ones that run the United States. They're the ones that had the money. How they got the money, I don't know. Bank loans and everything else like that. But one of the things we've got to go back to is, I don't have it up here. Let's see if I can find the link real quick, or the bookmark. Yes, here it is. Right here. We're going to go to the Federal Reserve and the sinking of the Titanic. We already know that a bunch of these guys was on there. We heard stories about them switching the names of the boat because Lusitania was a bad one, or whichever one it was, and it sunk and it killing a bunch of people, including the several people that was supposed to have been at this meeting on Jekyll Island that was a few days afterwards. The people that was on there, guys, was ones that was going against the Federal Reserve. And their names are Nelson Aldrich, Frank Vanderclip, who represented Rockefeller, Henry Davidson, as in Harley Davidson, Charles Norton, Norton, Virginia, Benjamin Strong, represented J.P. Morgan, and Paul Warburg, represented the Rothschild dynasty in Europe. So these 7 people met, but the ones that died on my phone, my mouse keeps quit working. I'm sorry, guys. But they don't tell you who it was. Anyway, here we go. A little bit more. There were several people in there that was against it and everything. We already know that. And these people, J.P. Morgan, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and a couple others, took over everything. Why is that important, guys? Well, we already know that they run the United States and their family up until basically 1988 or 1990. That date is kind of important because that is when Blackstone, later known as BlackRock, or actually subdivision is BlackRock, came on board. Larry Fink, I think is his name, is the one that started, and he worked for Blackstone. If y'all don't know who Blackstone is, remember who Blackstone is. They're a financial management organization. But if you go back and remember, if I'm not mistaken, Blackstone
was the mercenary group that was operating in Iraq and Afghanistan during the Kuwaiti freedom and all that other stuff. Not Kuwaiti, but Iraq and Afghanistan. And I started thinking about this, and one of the names I remember that kept coming up during this talks about Blackstone in Iraq and Afghanistan, Syria, and everything was Fink. You don't believe me? Go back and fact check it yourself. He was there. His name kept popping up about this all the time. So now, 1988 is when BlackRock, 1990 is when BlackRock started operating. All right, he didn't really full come on board until a few years later, bringing in several other people. I'm going to go ahead and go to him. The reason it waited so long and everything, guys, let me get BlackRock up here. I'm sorry, is because they had to wait for several people to fall out of contention. The Rothschild family, the Rockefeller family, and the J.P. Morgan group, and those attached to them. And if you remember what happened about 2008, actually started happening in 2004 and led up until 2008, is the monumental collapse of the economy that we had globally. Well, guess who was sitting there ready to snatch up everything they could and had the money available to put themselves on top of everything? In fact, they snatched a lot of things away from the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and Stan and Morgan. They bought up Merrill Lynch and several other things, guys, and they became one of the global leader investment organizations in the world. We heard about them all the time and everything like that. That is started up by several people and everything. I don't have their names handy right here. You can look it up yourself. Y'all see where I'm going right here with this. It's all, a lot of it's on Wikipedia and stuff or other web searches. But they are in with Vanguard. And if y'all don't know Vanguard, Vanguard has several subsidiaries under the name Vanguard and other Vanguard names. You can look it up. State Street is another one. I'm not sure how they're connected. I haven't got into them. But guys, when the Rothschilds started losing favor and J.P. Morgan started losing favor and Rockefeller started losing favor, well, BlackRock, Fink, and others was ready to step in. Kind of sounds like it was planned. Look at Berkshire Hathaway organization too. So they snatched the world's wealth basically away from them. Y'all remember a few years ago, I'm not sure what year it was, but David Rockefeller died. And then the Queen died. And then Rothschild died. Morgan, J.P. Morgan is dead. All the ones that controlled all this stuff before is gone. And it left a vacuum. Actually, it was created vacuum. And it was snatched up by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and a few others. And that's where we're at today, guys. I know this don't really make a whole lot of sense to you, or maybe it does. But as I said before, the things that's going on is kind of scary because before, even though the Rothschilds and those were bullish, if you will, on the world and didn't really care too much, look at what BlackRock has done, Vanguard, State Street, and the others has it done already since they've come on board. We've had an endless war in the Middle East. We've had an endless war starting in Eurasia, in Russia and Ukraine, and just on and on. We have constantly short supplies of everything. We are constantly in turmoil and stress. Wars and battles are starting up. Governments overthrown. Influence is thrown around on corporations. One of the things I found out, guys, is BlackRock and Vanguard are two of the, and State Street also, let me go ahead and throw that in there, are the largest investors in several organizations or corporations. Amazon, eBay, PayPal, Walmart, Microsoft. Do I need to make any more? Y'all get an idea? These three companies have enough influence to overthrow governments, to influence governments, to change economies, and destroy economies. A few things for y'all to think about, guys. Our world has been taken over by a bunch of people Now, one other thing, I want to throw this in there, that all the leaders of BlackRock, and I haven't looked into Vanguard yet, but I'm going to go and assume that they are also pretty much the same. But all the 3 or 4 heads at BlackRock are Jewish. Makes you think, don't it? Hope you'll have a groovy day, and things to think about on what's going on in the world, guys. Lots of stuff. So be aware and watch your back. Later, taters.